Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. This is your host, Stuart Cranes. We are here with another episode of Your Inside Track to Success. As always, have another awesome guest for you this week. But before I introduce him, please subscribe. Please share this with somebody if you get any value from today's episode, which I know you will. Cost of admission is free on this show. We just ask that you share this with somebody so that the impact, the wisdom, the nuggets, so to speak, can be shared with anybody all over the world who can benefit. And without further ado, I want to introduce today's guest. He is somebody that has been in my life for over a decade now, which is kind of wild to say out loud. How the years fly by for sure. He is somebody who I really look up to and admire because of his work ethic, his integrity, and also just the way that he is a mission and values driven individual. He is somebody that is a former collegiate runner and now is a school teacher serving the community in Denver, Colorado. But he's also the founder of Urban XC, which is a nonprofit organization basically providing the value, the gift, the joy of running to children in the inner city of Denver. And just because of who he is and the mentor that he has been on my life, I wanted to introduce Andrew Brimeyer to the show today. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, Stu. Looking forward to this conversation, man.
So I am super excited for you to share what you've been up to, and I'd love for you to just start out, maybe tell the audience a bit more about your journey as a runner and how you fell in love with running.
Yeah, so like a lot of kids, I grew up just playing sports a lot. Grew up in Dubuque, Iowa, where there isn't a whole lot to do other than play sports. So I was playing sports all the time. Um, and I got to high school and I wanted to get in better shape for basketball, and my sister was doing this sport called cross country, and I had never heard of it. And and so basically I gave it a shot, and my coaches were like, "Hey, you're pretty good at this." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And over time, basketball fell to the wayside, and running kind of took over, and just had some incredible mentors and coaches along the way who made me fall in love with the sport, fall in love with the camaraderie that you can build with teammates. And yeah, I was lucky enough to be able to run in college as well, at Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois. And just everywhere I went running, it wasn't just running, it was a spiritual experience. It was a way in which I made some of my closest friends in my life. And it just felt like a really authentic way to be myself and to push myself and to learn how to be a better person. And yeah, so I just fell in love with running. Still like running to this day, even if I don't do it as much as I once did. But yeah, it's been a big part of my life for a long time now.
And folks, for a little bit more context, I had gotten into running on my own in the gap between Andrew and I working together for a minor league baseball team in the Quad Cities of Iowa and living with him for about a year and a half in Denver, Colorado, really edified my love for running. I know I've documented a bit of my running journey here on this show in a prior episode. Andrew, I wanted you to elaborate a bit more. What were some of the life lessons that running afforded you growing up?
Yeah, I think initially what I loved about running was that you got out of it what you put into it, you know? It was a sport that wasn't very based on who the coach's favorite was or anything like that. It was the top 7 are your varsity, right? And in order to be top 7, you can work really hard in order to reach that goal. Or not even to be top 7, to get a PR, to improve, right? And it was a sport that just felt more fair sometimes, of if I run hard and if I work hard and if I do it consistently for a really long time, I can get good at this. And so it just taught me the value of not just hard work, but like consistent hard work, like 48 weeks a year hard work as a
Mm.
teenager. And like running when it's negative 20 degrees out in Iowa, and still getting your run in. And those are lessons like I still have to remind myself of today sometimes when I don't want to do stuff. I'm like, hey man, like 16-year-old you could like go for that run in negative 20-degree weather. Like you can do this. So so yeah, just like the value of hard work is one. And then later on, I would say like in college, I had a kind of a up and down career. I had a lot of injuries and things like that. Um, and that notion of like, oh, if you just work hard, everything will pay off. It did get kind of like transformed a little bit into like sometimes you work hard and it still doesn't pay off, but you still got to show up and you still got to keep doing the work. And the journey is the goal. It's not just the results that you have. And our coach, Paul Olson, that was one of his slogans for the team, was the journey is the goal.
Mm.
And I don't think I realized how important that slogan would be to me when I was at Augie or when I was facing those injuries and was struggling through life. But looking back now with a bird's eye view, it's just so evident that that is the truth, you know, that like in whatever journey you're in, the journey is the goal. It's not whatever you're trying to achieve. And it's the people you meet along the way, and it's those lessons you learn. It's being able to face failure and accept it, and learn and grow from it, and realize that failure is often not a terrible thing. It's often the thing that's going to drive you forward and make you a better person, and force you to maybe take a look at your values and see what you really care about. And yeah, I feel like those are two really big lessons. There's a bunch of them, obviously, but yeah, I'd say those are two really big lessons that running taught me.
Wow. And you shared so much wisdom there. I feel like there's a lot to unpack, but I wanted to ask, how did the struggles that you described in college, and like you so eloquently put, the journey being the goal and not the end destination, how did that set you up for the nonprofit work that you're doing today?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I went into college, it was very much like, man, I love this running thing and I'm pretty good at it and I want to show them how good I can be. Like I'm going to do it. I'm going to work hard and I'm going to be one of the best guys on the team. I want to be an All-American someday. And all of those are like worthy goals, but I like as soon as some struggles hit, first I want to say I did not handle the struggles very well at first. Like I got hurt, like in the winter of my freshman year. I was like kind of on the rise, was doing really well on our team, and then yeah, just strained a muscle in practice. And instead of doing the smart thing and like taking care of it and like doing physical therapy and making sure I was healthy, I just kept running through it because I was stubborn. And I was like, nah, this is fine. Like I'm okay. I'm okay. It doesn't hurt that bad. And it just got worse and worse and worse, and like led to like pretty long lasting damage in my leg that I was basically running through the rest of my college career. So I would say that that set me up to have to learn when I was in college that like it isn't just about it isn't just about running, and it's not just about getting fast. It's about trying to overcome these challenges that you have in your life. And I think that led to a pretty natural segue into Denver Urban XC being a thing later on, because I'm working with kids who have a lot of challenges in their lives, and kids who have to overcome racism sometimes, like at meets, kids who have to overcome growing up in single parent homes, which provides tons of challenges for them, kids who the majority of them grow up in poverty. They are facing way more struggles than I ever had to face when I was younger. But running is something that is this unifier that can help teach them how to continue to show up and how to overcome even when things are difficult, and how like you might not always get what you want, and and life isn't always fair, but you got to keep showing up. And they know that better than I do through the things that they've gone through and the people they are, and they're way more resilient than I'll ever be. But I think, yeah, those lessons that I learned in college definitely helped set me up to realize like it's more than running. It's those lessons that the kids are taking from it. And yeah, I hope that our kids take those lessons with them once they're done running, or once they graduate and move on to college or whatever.
So, following up on something you said earlier, you spoke about getting injured in your running career at Augustana College. You had the goal of being an All American at that level, and you alluded to it, but you basically did not meet that goal. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious because I feel like a lot of people set big goals, have these dreams, have these aspirations. Life happens for
Right.
whatever reason. They don't achieve whatever the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
How did you overcome the mental aspect of that when it became clear that your goal of being all American wasn't going to happen for you?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was really hard because so much of my identity was built around that, you know? My identity was built around I am a hardworking runner who reaches his goals because of the hard work he puts in, right? And then when that goal is no longer on the table, and that was probably, I don't know, probably somewhere in my junior year that I realized, like, man, probably isn't going to happen for me. Like it's going to take a pretty significant turnaround for this to happen for me. And then I think you're forced to shift what you value a little bit. And I think it was around that time that I was like, all right, if I can't be an All-American, then I'm gonna be the best teammate I can be and support my teammates to try to become All-Americans or to achieve their goals. Or I'm gonna talk to the kid who's running through an injury in his freshman year and be like, yo, dude, like it's not worth it. Don't do it.
Mhm.
Like you have so many more good years of running ahead of you. Like, don't make the same mistake I did. And I think ultimately it forced me to start grappling with what I wanted to do after college, right? College is it's such an insulated place. And I think on a team it can be particularly insulated, and which is beautiful because you have like such a tight knit community, but also you like start to like my only friends for the most part were runners. And
Mhm.
so many of us like had like our identities built around this sport. And it forced me to grapple with what I wanted to do afterwards. And I think the more that I was a mentor to teammates, it made me realize I wanted to be that in my life after college, and which kind of naturally segued into me wanting to be a teacher and a coach. And I was majoring in business management and English literature at the time. I like you had mentioned, I worked for the minor league baseball team. I thought I wanted to wanted to live in the baseball world and be in management somehow in baseball and work for the Chicago Cubs. That was a
Mhm.
goal. And as I was going through these struggles, and as I was reading like Ralph Waldo Emerson and my literature classes and self-reliance and things like that, I started to it just shifted, you know, and it
Mhm.
and the things that I valued just came to the forefront. They just kind of bubbled up to the top, and it was like, all right, I value community, I value relationships, I value helping other people grow, and those were things that brought me joy in a way that was really only rivaled by like my own like when I achieved a goal, like it started to feel the same when like one of my teammates achieved a goal, you know, like I
I love
felt
that.
that same sense of like, oh, this is awesome, like I'm so pumped, like I couldn't fall asleep at night because I was thinking about my friend David's race or this or that. And that just made me realize like, man, I need to keep doing this. I want to teach, I want to coach, and which led me to grad school and totally changing my educational path, and led me to teaching and coaching, which is where I still am today. So
Dude, I love that. And thank you for sharing so much of your journey in that. And being the principled person that I experience you to be, definitely deeply introspective, reflective. How do you instill these values, these lessons in the kids that you are around each and every day, whether it's in the classroom or teaching them, through track and field, cross country? Because like it or not, we're in a society today where we're always got our phones, we're
Yep.
always comparing ourselves to
Yep.
others. How many likes did I get on whatever video I posted? How do you instill these types of values in kids when they're navigating everything that they are as young people?
Yeah, man. Oh, it's like, um, I would say one of the first things is to be really self-aware and where I am at and how I'm feeling and how I'm doing at a particular moment. Because I constantly feel like I'm doing a bad job, like in a lot of ways. Like, or like I'll have an interaction with a kid where I'm a little short with them or something because I'm frustrated about something. I'm like, ooh, something's off right now. I gotta check that. And so that's one thing, is like making sure I'm in the right space to help kids. And that means, taking care of myself, trying to exercise, trying to sleep, and just trying to make sure that my compass is pointed in the right direction a lot of the times. Because sometimes, I mean, actually all the time, kids will not react in the ways that you want them to react to certain things. And you have to be able to calmly nudge them in a different way, and not overreact, and not get frustrated with the fact that they don't get it yet,
Mhm.
and so I think that's one really important thing for me, is making sure that I'm oriented in the right direction. And I get disoriented all the time, and it's like a constant redirection of myself too, of like, hey man, like the kid's just acting this way because this happened, right? Or the kid's just acting this way because of this. And like
Mhm.
checking my own ego, which I have to do a lot because I've got a big one. um but so that's part of it. And then yeah, beyond that, it's just like making sure that the kids know that like every failure that they go through is leading them towards learning, and it's leading them towards being a better version of themselves, and reminding myself that too, of like, oh, like their failures aren't who they are. Like their failures are just something that's leading them towards being a better student or being a better runner, and helping them navigate through that. And different kids react to failure differently, but it's hard for all of them. And some will just like shut down and like not care and be like, oh man, like whatever, like I suck at school. And you gotta nudge them in a different way than the kid who is totally type A and a perfectionist, and someone who's experiencing failure rarely, but when they do, it hits hard.
Mhm.
And yeah, just trying to first off build relationships with kids. That's the most important thing, because they don't there's that old quote, they don't care about what you know until they know that you care. And it's extremely true. And I'm very fortunate to be at a school that is extremely relationship oriented and centered. We have a time every day called crew, which is about 40 minutes in the morning, that is just like intentional relationship building time with like a group of like 13 students. And it's like your little family at school. And that like permeates to beyond just your own crew kids. Like there's just this culture of crew at our school, which allows you to just really focus in on those relationships. And I think once you have those relationships established, it allows you to be able to have real conversations with kids, which is what they need. They need somebody to have real conversations with them about what they are struggling with, like what they're going through, what you notice in a class, of like, hey man, like I noticed you just like, I don't feel like you've been putting in your best work recently. Like what's going on? What's happening? And if they know that you care and you know that you've been there a while and that you're going to keep showing up for them, they're way more willing to let you in on what's actually going on. And sometimes that's like a months or years long process. It's not like every time I go up to a kid like we have this great talk and voila, all the problems are solved. But it's trusting in that slow work, and knowing that, yeah, showing up for kids every day and being consistent for them, is what ultimately leads you to be able to have real conversations with them and be able to react to their needs in whatever way that they do need, because it's different for every kid.
Amen to that. I mean, I think children are our greatest teachers all the time. I mean, with my stepson, I am constantly being challenged to be a better leader, better communicator, better at meeting him where he's at each and every day. And you're interacting with dozens and dozens of kids on a daily basis. I'm curious, Andrew, you don't have to name any names, for obvious reasons, but what's maybe your favorite success story with the children you work with, given that you work with a population that typically has a lot of disadvantages as our society creates them?
Man, yeah, I mean it's always tough, right? Because like it you have to measure like, all right, what is success, right? And a lot of times we think success is like, wow, this kid got like a full ride scholarship to this university and I'm so proud of them. And like we have kids like that and it's awesome. And I'm extremely proud of those kids. But sometimes it's like it's just a kid who's like staying out of trouble, like who's in high school and is still doing well and is like working a job that they care about like in the summers and is just like a good person, and there are like, man, there are tons and tons of kids like that who we have. Our eighth graders every year they do a passage presentation, which is basically a presentation given to their teachers, parents, the people kind of closest to them in their life. And it's like a 20 to 25-minute presentation about why they're ready to move on, from enunciation and move to their high schools. And every
Wow.
year, just like I'm crying like for like a week straight as these kids are giving these presentations because I'm just so proud of the people that they become, And yeah, man, there's tons of them. There's kids who we get like as sixth graders or seventh graders who come in with like a big FU stamped on their forehead, and
Hmm.
who life has just not been kind to. And then a couple of years of just constant love from a big group of people. Seeing how that can change a kid is like so gratifying. And it just, I don't know, it restores your faith in humanity a little bit because there's a lot of crap our kids have to deal with that totally ruins your faith in humanity. But to know that they have a place every day where they can come in and feel loved and feel valued and start to develop their own sense of feeling like they're worthy of love and that they are valued. That's like, it's so fun to see at the end of eighth grade what they're like, especially like when they come in with that FU on their forehead, right? Those are the
Hmm.
kids who like when our principal comes in and is like, hey, we got this kid coming in, just so you know, they've got this, and this coming with them. Like they're carrying this sort of stuff. And like I feel really grateful to work with a team of other educators who are like, bring it on, like let's go, can't wait to meet this kid. Yeah, it just, man, love works, man, it really does. And if they just experience that over and over, it's not to say there aren't hardships along the way. There certainly are. But man, I know there's one girl in particular who's coming to mind right now who, like, as a seventh grader came in. She came in like middle of the year, seventh grade, so we only had like a year and a half with her. And then like she came in, she was like failing her classes. Like I know that, like, yeah, she was living older than she needed to in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And
Understood.
like, but she was like so freaking smart and like so kind, and like it, just to see that come out like throughout her time in enunciation was really beautiful. And she yeah, like last year she graduated from enunciation, like was a straight A student, got into like a really great private school out here in Colorado, like one of the tougher ones to get into in the state, and is crushing it there as a freshman now. And it's just like, man, like that's cool. Like it's cool to see like And like I said, it's not always going to be kids like that who become straight A students. There are kids who are still going to like not do great at school going into high school, but like they
Mhm.
become good people, right? And that's what matters. And but yeah, those yeah, seeing who they get to become as people, and like now seeing kids like go on to college or their work lives and things like that, and seeing the kind of people they are is extremely gratifying. And when they come back and visit, I don't know, I feel like a proud papa. I'm just smiling from ear to ear whenever I see them. So
For sure. You might not have children of your own at this time, but you definitely have your imprint on dozens and dozens of kids out there in the world that are becoming young adults and going to have their own impact on the world because of the example you set. And I acknowledge you for that. Hey guys, it's your host, Stuart Cranes, taking a quick break from this week's episode to let you know about a really amazing opportunity to get coaching from yours truly. This upcoming Wednesday, November 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, my wife, Jennifer, and I are putting on a free workshop for anybody that may have had a big goal going into 2023 and just hasn't had the opportunity to pull the trigger. We all know that there's a lot of uncertainty in the world today with the economy, the rise of artificial intelligence, international relations are at an unrest. And, with the amount of things that have been happening, we may have lost sight of our goals. We may have lost sight of our dreams, may have just lost the momentum. And this opportunity is for you to get coaching, receive the motivation, the tools, the tips, the insights to get back in the game to make 2024 the year that you finally create that result. How would it feel to finally lose that weight or to write that book or to find the job of your dreams? Whatever the goal may be, this is your opportunity to learn from two ICF trained coaches. And additionally, as a bonus, anybody who signs up to attend this free workshop is going to get the opportunity to book a free 30-minute coaching call with either Jennifer or myself. Again, all of these are free to you just for signing up. All of it is done in the service of making sure that you live your best life and that 2024 is the year that finally you create that big result in your life. Now let's get back to the show. And, just to switch gears a little bit, you mentioned faith. And I want to ask you this because in our time living together as roommates, you were actually a mentor of mine in a way when it comes to faith at a time when really didn't have a lot, if I'm going to be honest. Like I didn't really have a connection to a higher power. That has changed in recent years, thankfully. But what is the role that faith plays in overcoming adversity, navigating life's difficult times? I'm wondering if you can just elaborate on that, whether it's your own example or those of the kids you work with.
yeah, man. Yeah, for me, faith is it's kind of a North Star, right? It's our mission statement at Annunciation is we are Annunciation Catholic School of the Archdiocese of Denver, an inclusive urban community committed to serve, committed to learn, committed to love, and committed to live these with integrity as Jesus did. And that last part, to live these with integrity as Jesus did, is extremely important to me because I think there's a lot of people who will go to church and then forget everything they learned in the week in between. They'll go to church every Sunday and then they won't necessarily live out the values that Jesus was trying to instill in that week in between. And so for me, it's a constant like integrity check sort of like, all right, am I trying to live in a way that like Jesus would want me to live, right? Am I trying to live in a way that he would be proud of? Am I serving others or am I trying to serve myself? And I think that's a constant check-in that I have to do. And I'm not always happy with with what I'm doing, right? Like or with how I'm doing. Sometimes I'm like, man, you're being a little selfish this week. Like you gotta get over that. Yeah. And then in terms of overcoming obstacles, I mean, there's a few things, and tell the kids this all the time, but I have to tell it to myself too. It's that, like, number one, like, you're inherently loved because you exist. You don't have to earn it.
Mhm.
It's something that you were born deserving to be loved. And I think that's a really important thing for kids to know as they're overcoming obstacles, because they often feel like their value is directly correlated to how they're doing in school, or how they're doing in a certain sport, or just like how many friends they have, or things like that. And it's just not. Like, you are loved because you exist. And when I'm doing really well, I remind myself of that. I don't remind myself of that enough, but I don't think any of us probably do. And then from there, it's, yeah, just realizing that you're not alone in all of it, and there's a greater purpose to your life, that your life is meant to be used to help others. I think that's something that, usually if I'm in a bad spot, it's because I'm thinking about myself a little bit too much and not thinking about others. Because, like, there are studies done that show, like, man, if you do this for another person, like, your happiness goes up. Like, if you start spending more time, and this isn't to say to not take care of yourself, right? We don't want to like bleed ourselves dry, but like, if you are consistently giving to others, it makes you much more happy. And in the moments in my life where I've been lowest, I have been just like, my relationship with God is very much like, God, like, why is this happening to me? Like, what the heck? Like, this
Mhm.
sucks, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of like throwing a pity party for myself. And like, I've found that the things that get me out of that are just being of service to others, right? And feeling like I've got some sort of use for others, and can help lift others up. And in lifting others up, you lift yourself out of this rut. And it's totally like it can be used selfishly, and that's okay, right? If you're giving to others and helping yourself out in the process, that's great. Like, but yeah, I've found that, yeah, being of service to others is usually what allows me to first off just like see God, and be able to like really witness him in my life. And then secondly, it just allows you to get through the day better, because you feel like you've got some sort of purpose, and it's not just about you. It's about building a better world for the people around you, and trying to make heaven a little more present on earth.
Dude, I love that. I'm getting goosebumps just listening to you share about all this. And thank you for sharing something that very clearly came from the heart. Like, it's just very evident that, you live and breathe these as truths, these lessons, I should say, as truths in your life. And so I'm curious, obviously there are times, and you kind of referenced it, where maybe it's harder to have faith because life keeps coming at you in ways that don't seem fair, quite frankly, very often, and especially when they're coming at you with severity, or with frequency, or with the number of things that you're blessed to juggle at any given time. How do you get regrounded in your faith in those moments?
Yeah, I think for me, gratitude is probably one of the most important things when it comes to regrounding myself, because typically, like I mentioned, in those moments I'm thinking very much like about all that's going wrong, right? And there's always going to be stuff going wrong in your life, like, no matter what. Like, it could be the best time of your life, and there's still crap that's going wrong, because that's just how life works. There's too many things going on at once for all of them to be going well. um and so typically when I'm in a bad spot, it's because I'm not paying close enough attention to the things that are good in my life, and the
Mhm.
blessings that I'm receiving at that time. And sometimes it's really important for me to just take a step back and like, um, presently look at the journey, right, and look at where my life has taken me, and be like, wow, I'm a lucky person. I
Mhm.
think also, like, working with the kids that I work with, like that forces you to be grateful for what you have. Like I am a very privileged white man living in America, like who's not had to deal with a ton of I've had to overcome struggles, right? Like, but comparatively to what some of these kids are going through, man, that grounds you real quick, and you're like, oh man, I've got nothing to complain about. And so that's another one. But yeah, just gratitude, man. And being able to see all the good things that are happening in your life. And usually those good things multiply when you are focused on those good things that already exist. And it allows you to just feel happier and better and have better relationships with the people around you. And you're a more tolerable person when you're grateful rather than complaining all the time. I know
Yep.
that for a fact, and we all know that. And yeah, I think gratitude is definitely the biggest thing for me. And in those really tough times, it can be harder to feel grateful, right? It can be harder
Hmm.
to see what good things are happening. But they're there. They're always there. And sometimes you have to look a little harder for them, but um yeah, focus on what you're grateful for and the good stuff that's already happening, and that usually leads to more good stuff happening. And then whatever the bad stuff is, it just kind of starts to dissipate a little bit because you realize all the good stuff that you have going for you.
Yeah, man. So what would you say you're grateful for in this moment?
Ooh, man, I'm grateful for the community I get to be a part of every day, whether it's at my school or through Urban XC. I like every day I'm surrounded by kids who I love, and families who I love being around, and teachers who I love being around, and who have similar passions and similar moral compasses to me. Yeah, I am grateful all the time for just the places that I've just landed in by happenstance, like whether it was high school and having a cross country coach who really cared, or college and having a team of people around me who yes cared about running but also were pushing me to care about something more, right? Or whether it was yeah, living down in Texas and having kids who helped me through a really hard time, or yeah, enunciation now, and the people I get to be around every day, and the kids I get to be around every day, and the way that they live out what it means to be a good person, and how to be there for others. um yeah, man, I've just lucked into so many really great situations in my life, I feel like, and how can you not be grateful about that?
Thank you for sharing. And yeah, man, like this time together today feels like it's flown by. And I feel like I have a lot more things I can ask you for sure. But just to respect your time and the time of the listeners, I would love to know maybe just one last thing before we start to wind this down. If you had like one maxim or quote that you live by, what would that be? And could you share it with the audience?
Yeah, there's a quote that my my college cross country coach had at the end of all of his emails. And when I was a college kid, I was like, oh, that's a cool quote, but didn't really think anything beyond that. Like it was just like, oh, Ols has this cool quote from the Talmud at the bottom of all of his emails. That's really cool. But it says, do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Um, and
Wow.
yeah, it just now it hits me like a ton of bricks, because that's what teaching is. It's what coaching is. It's what working with kids who are handed more than they can walk with. That's what you have to deal with, right? Yeah, that quote just always orients me towards the whole world's not on your shoulders, but you can do something. And that just yeah forces me to stay on track and know what I know, that I've got something that I can do, even if I can't fix everything, right? And my job isn't to fix everything. It's just to continue to show up and walk humbly and walk with the kids that I work with and the people I work with. And yeah, that quote's always a really good reminder. And who knew that all those years when I was reading my coach's emails in college that it would come back and have such an impact on my life. So yeah.
Yeah. Clearly it stuck. And to acknowledge you, Andrew, like you are somebody that I think truly lives by those words that you just shared with everybody. I want to acknowledge you for your heart. I want to acknowledge you for your integrity. I want to acknowledge you for somebody that just cares about people externally from yourself. I feel like that has come to define you, at least through this stage of your life. And I cannot wait to see what you continue to create, both with the nonprofit work you do as an educator and beyond. And the final question I have for you today is one that I ask every single guest. And that is, what are you acknowledging yourself for today?
Ooh, man. Um, Man, I would say I'm not good at this. And I'm guessing not a lot of people are. But I would say I want to acknowledge myself for continuing to show up. Um, Even on the days that aren't so good, right? On the days where it feels just like a slog. Yeah, I continue to show up. And that's something my parents always taught me to do, like just show up. Like even if you're not going to be your best, just keep showing up. And yeah, I think there's a lot of power in showing up. And so yeah, I'll acknowledge myself for that, for continuing to show up even on the hard days. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Andrew, and thank you for being on the show. Folks, this has been another episode of Your Inside Track to Success. Again, we are back here every Wednesday with new episode, new conversation, or a new message to support you in up-leveling your life and creating the life of your dreams as well. So please follow, please like, please leave a 5-star review, particularly if you are catching this on Spotify. It just helps people like Andrew get their message out into the world as it becomes more relative in the search functions. So again, y'all, this has been the show for this week. I'm your host, Stuart Krantz. We'll catch you next week.